Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kyle Kugler, and I am the Iowa SourceLink Program Coordinator at the University of Northern Iowa's John Papajohn Entrepreneurial Center. In today's webinar, Terry O'Neill will be covering the Iowa Department of Revenue's third-party access and authorization information. Terry is a taxpayer specialist at the Iowa Department of Revenue and is a very familiar face when it comes to these tax webinars. Chet Eigenor is a programs administrator at the department, and he will also be working in the background to answer questions as they come through. So both Chet and Terry, thank you very much for helping out today and sharing this information. So before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit about what we do at Iowa SourceLink and some important information regarding today's webinar. So make sure that you listen up. So at Iowa SourceLink, we assist Iowa entrepreneurs who are looking to start, grow, fund, and even exit their businesses by providing step-by-step guides, make helpful referrals and connections to our nearly 400 city, county, and statewide partners who provide free business assistance and counseling services. And we are also home to the Business License Information Center, which is a centralized database of more than 450 business licenses from across the entire state of Iowa. So awesome information that we have out there. So I'm now going to go over some important information for all of the attendees today. I'll repeat this at the end of the webinar, but just in case you end up leaving the webinar before then, very important that you listen to this right now. So Iowa SourceLink does not provide any sort of continuing education certificate or credit for your attendance here today. We do, however, send out an email to all those who attend that can be used as your proof of attendance. This will typically go out within a couple of days after the webinar concludes. So again, we do not provide continuing education certification for your attendance here today, but an email will be sent out to you that you can use as proof of attendance. Also, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available either this Friday or upcoming Monday. And the same email that you receive as your proof of attendance, there will be a link to today's recording. So just be on the lookout for that. It'll be coming from us. So you can watch that recording in a couple of days. It will be available to view. The slides for today's webinar will be shared momentarily in the chat box by my colleague, Sophie Troxel. Sophie and I will be sharing, along with Chet, other resources and contact information and whatnot from questions that come through in the Q&A box as they come up, if they're relevant. Then that also goes to the Q&A box itself. It's located at the bottom half of your screen. We're going to hold off on answering all questions today until the very end. If there isn't enough time to get through all of the questions today, don't worry. All of the questions will be sent to Terry and Chet alongside your contact information so they can follow up with you if they are able to. So with that, Terry, I will let you take it away.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kyle. As Kyle said, I'm Terry O'Neill, longtime taxpayer service specialist here with the Department of Revenue. And we've got Chet Eigenor is in the background. We'll be helping with the Q&A. Today's webinar, and thank you all for attending. Today's webinar is going to provide information on third-party access and authorization. This is an area that we get a lot of questions on here at the Department of Revenue. So it's my hope that this webinar will shed some light on this topic for you and hopefully make things easier for both you and for the department going forward when you reach out to us and contact us with various questions about tax returns and things. This should hopefully shed some light on what we can share with you and how you can become an authorized individual. So we'll go ahead and move on. If you've ever been to, there we go. If you've ever been to one of our webinars before, you know that we always have to give our little disclaimer. We always have to tell you that this is for general educational purposes only. Anything said here today is not binding on the department. The only way that you can get something binding on the department is if you request a declaratory order as per the code section that's listed on the screen here. So again, we do this at any presentation that we give, any group that we talk to. We just want to get that out right away at the front. What are we going to cover today? Well, on this particular topic, we're going to talk about tax information being confidential. We're going to talk about the different types of third-party access that you may have to obtain information. And we're going to also discuss how to grant access. So that's what we're going to cover today in this webinar. And we're going to move on to the first thing with about tax information being confidential. And this is pretty serious. we are the keepers of a lot of confidential information, a lot of information that we have to keep from getting into the wrong hands. Iowa law provides very strong protections for tax returns and return information. We, employees here at the Department of Revenue, we can get in a lot of trouble. It's a crime if we disclose information to an unauthorized individual. So this is something that we take very seriously here at the department. We cannot provide confidential information to an unauthorized person. So that's the purpose of the webinar today, is to discuss these things with you. With that being said, we do require certain information about people that are authorized to receive the taxpayer's return information in order to ensure that that information is protected from unauthorized disclosure. So again, something we take very seriously here at the Department of Revenue. The different types of access that we have where people can request access to information. Taxpayers can do that, and we're going to shed a little bit of light on each one of these topics. Authorized representatives, a power of attorney, that's one you're probably most familiar with. Disclosure designee. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on each one of these different types of access that an individual may have. Taxpayer access. Well, a taxpayer can contact the department and they can access their own tax information. Just as an example, if you wanted to call the department and had questions about your individual income tax returns, we can talk to you about that. We're going to ask you some questions to make sure you are, in fact, the taxpayer, but that is something that you can do. You can contact us and we can discuss things with you about your tax return. Again, you can talk to us about things related to your tax return. You can also make decisions and take actions regarding your tax return as well. That's something that you can do. Or if you're not really that comfortable with dealing with your taxes, you can designate someone else. You can designate someone, maybe a power of attorney, possibly, that the department could discuss your tax return with, or they could act on your behalf. So those are some things, again, that the taxpayer can do. Again, we can talk to you if you want to call and talk to us, or if you want to designate someone to talk to the department regarding your tax matters on your personal individual income tax return, we can do that as well. Who is the taxpayer? Well, for individuals, this is usually pretty easy. Again, if you call us up and you say, hey, my name is Joe Smith, and I want to ask a question about my 2022 Iowa 1040, we can usually handle that pretty easily. We're going to ask you some questions to verify that you are, in fact, the authorized individual, so we can talk to you. But other than that, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. There is something, though, there is an exception for someone such as a minor or potentially someone who is incapacitated. When we get to the rep cert, the representative certification forms, there is a place on there for someone, their parents are maybe going to represent a minor. That information is on the representative certification form. We'll get to that a little bit later. So please just watch out for that. Who else is a taxpayer? Well, a business entity is also a taxpayer, okay? A business entity such as a corporation, they are a taxpayer. However, a corporation cannot speak for themselves. They have to assign authorized individuals or authorized representatives that can talk to the department or act on behalf of the department. So that just wanted to share that with you, the difference here. Entities, again, entities are taxpayers, but they have to have someone authorized to speak on their behalf or act on their behalf. Authorized representatives. This is done through our representative certification form, which we're going to get to here in just a little bit. This is a person who already has actual authority to act on behalf of the taxpayer. Okay, when it comes to tax matters, some examples, and this is not an inclusive list, but an example of someone who may be an authorized individual. If it's for a business, the business owner could be an authorized individual. An authorized partner could possibly be another individual that we could talk to. A corporate officer is another example. And the fourth one is, again, just an example. This is not all inclusive. an employee who is responsible for tax matters. These are individuals who have the authority from their company, from their business, to act on behalf of this entity. Others that could possibly also be authorized individuals. This could be a trustee potentially, could be an executor of an estate, could be a parent of a minor who signed a minor's return. Again, that is on the representative certification form. A court-appointed guardian or custodian. Again, we don't know who these folks are unless you submit the proper third-party documentation. And again, this would be a representative certification form. So we'll shed some more light on that when I get to the form here in just a little bit. Another type of authorized individual would be a power of attorney, or POA. This is someone that is appointed by the taxpayer or a documented authorized representative. So again, a taxpayer can appoint a power of attorney, so can a representative certification, a certified representative. They can do this as well. You must, in order to be an Iowa power of attorney, you must use the Iowa power of attorney, the IA 2848. This is available on our website. The federal power of attorney form is no longer accepted. If you've worked with taxes around here with the Department of Revenue for quite a few years now, you may remember back in the day when we did accept federal power of attorney forms. If they were noted on there that this is valid for Iowa only. We used to do that years ago. We do not anymore. You have to use the Iowa power of attorney form. So please just keep that in mind. By default, a power of attorney has the full authority to act on behalf of a taxpayer. It's basically the same as if they were the taxpayer or an authorized representative. So power of attorney, again, they can act on behalf of a taxpayer. Power of attorneys, their authority can be limited using the exclusions on the actual form itself. So their authority can be limited. The authorization is limited to 3 years beyond the signature date. So if a new power of attorney is needed to extend the years authorized to discuss. So maybe you've got someone who is a power of attorney for the tax years 2019, 2020, 2021, and you want them to be able to discuss the 2022 return, 2023 return. That's going to require a new power of attorney in order to extend the time frame that we can discuss, or the tax periods that we can discuss with someone. When submitting a new power of attorney form, be sure that you've included any and all existing power of attorneys that you still want to have on file with the department. If you submit a new one with only one on there, that will wipe out the old power of attorneys. That will wipe all of them out. So again, when you're sending us a new one, make sure that you do have all of those power of attorneys that you want to have listed on there. They do have to be included on the form. Another type that we have is the disclosure designee. And this one is relatively new. We haven't had this around just forever. This form is appointed by the taxpayer or a certified representative in order to disclose information to that individual. This must be appointed using the Iowa form IA 8821. Again, this form is available on our website. You can find that at tax.iowa.gov. You can find that form on there. By default, the designee can review and receive information about all about the taxpayer's Iowa taxes. The access can be limited to specific periods or tax types. That's all part of the disclosure designee. However, one thing that is different here, a disclosure designee is not authorized to take any action with the department on the taxpayer's behalf. So what are we talking about here? If a disclosure designee contacts the department and they say, hey, I want this payment applied to a different tax period, can't do it. Disclosure designees cannot act on behalf of a taxpayer. Okay, it's going to take a certified representative. It's going to take a power of attorney, or someone else to act on behalf of a taxpayer, a disclosure designee cannot. It only means we can discuss information with them. Okay, how do we grant access? How do we get access to these various different third parties that we've discussed already? To do so, what we need to do is we're going to first discuss about a certified representative. This is someone also known as an authorized representative who already has some type of actual authority to act on behalf of a taxpayer in tax matters, excuse me. In this situation, they are not being granted access, so to speak. They are declaring their authority. They are saying that, yes, I am signing this form. I am authorized to act on behalf of this particular taxpayer, this particular entity. We don't know who you are unless you submit this form to us, okay? Just because you happen to have authority, we don't know that until you submit the proper documentation. Again, there are several ways in order to be able to declare the representative's authority to the department. Probably the most common one is to submit the representative certification form. This is where the individual is going to state that, yes, by signing this, I do have the authority to act on behalf of this entity. This is something, a representative certification form should be submitted for any or all officers, owners, employees that are authorized to act on behalf of the entity. Okay, that's what they would have to send to us in order to be an authorized individual. The Iowa Business Tax Permit Registration Form, there is a place on there too to list individuals that are authorized to act on behalf of the entity. That's done usually at the time of registration. Iowa Entity Income Tax Returns. This is coming up here for tax year 2023 and later. There is a place that these authorized representatives will be able to sign on the return and become authorized in that regard. I'll share some more information with you on that here in just a little bit. One thing that we get frequently is people will contact and they will say, well, I'm shown on the Secretary of State website as an authorized individual, as an officer, whatever your title may be. That may be so. However, the department does not use that information. So if you are an authorized individual, that's great. Just make sure that you submit to us the representative certification form. What does this representative certification form look like? Well, I was going to show you a few things on here just to bring this, make sure that we're all under the same understanding here. In this particular form, I've broken down, I've got the top two sections listed here. And the top one is pretty straightforward. You know, what's the taxpayer's information? What's the legal name, doing business as? The address, all that sort of information. That's pretty straightforward. We don't usually have too many questions or problems with that. Section number 2 is the representative's information. And I can tell you from working here at the department for a long time and from seeing these things coming into the department, we've got some issues here on occasion. In the representative section, again, section number 2 is what I'm talking about here. The representative has to put their name in here. That's pretty straightforward, no big problem there. But then they have to put their identification number. They have to put that in here. They can check the type of identification number they want to use. The Social Security number, the I-10, a P-10, or if you don't want to use your Social Security number or I-10 or P-10, you can apply for, or you can have an Iowa account number issued for you. And this is something that if you're going to do this, you simply write none in here, and we will assign one to you. Now, individuals, you only get one of these, okay? Once you get an Iowa account number, that's all you get is just one. If you've already gotten one or one's been assigned to you, but you forgot or you misplaced it or you're not sure what it is anymore, give us a call. We'll talk to you. We're going to ask you some questions to establish that you are the correct person, but we can find that information for you. That's not a problem. One thing on here to remember as well is the person who is the representative shown here in section number 2, they're the one that has to sign this form down at the bottom. When I get down to the signature section, I'll bring that up to your attention again, but this is very common. We have people in section number 2, they don't want to put a representative identification number on there. Okay, I get that. You may not want to use your social security number. That's fine. That's why we have this Iowa account number option. So just something to be aware of. In section number 3 of the form, for section number 3, this is where the representative checks the box and they state what gives them the authority to act on behalf of this entity. And one thing to know on here, just read these options carefully. You want to make sure that you check off the proper one that gives you the authority to act on behalf of this entity. Some of these, if you notice on here, some of them require additional supporting documentation. And I will see that fairly frequently. Someone will say, well, the reason I have authority is because I am a general or durable power of attorney, the very top option up here. You have to also include a copy of that durable or general power of attorney to the department so that we can see that. If you don't do it, it's going to end up being rejected, meaning it's going to come back to you and it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, we need more information before we can process this and give you the A-OK. So be aware of that. Again, when you're checking one of these boxes, just read them closely. Some of them do require supporting documentation. There is one on here that applies this one that's kind of in this area here. An individual such as an officer of a corporation or of a different type of business entity. This one, a lot of individuals submit this one to us. This one does not require any supporting documentation. If you're signing off on it, it's under penalty of perjury that you do in fact have authorization to act on behalf of this entity. So again, be careful of that. I did mention earlier as well, I mentioned about a parent or a guardian of a minor in cases where the parent or the guardian signed the minor's tax return. That's where you would complete this particular section. If you signed your child's tax return, for instance, and you want to discuss the return with us, you need to submit this representative certification form. Check off this box down here, and you will be good to go. Once we process it and get it updated in our system, you'll be golden as far as we're concerned. We can talk to you, and you can act on behalf of the taxpayer. Again, the bottom section here of the representative certification form, this has to be signed by the representative listed up here in section 2 that we had a couple slides ago. It's common that I see these things come in, and these are signed by someone that is not the representative. So be careful with this. Make sure that it's the individual up in section 2. They have to sign off on this. It does say so right up underneath the signature area here. This form must be signed by the individual listed in the representative section. Again, common mistake that we do see frequently here at the Department of Revenue. Again, by completing this form, this is how we know that someone is authorized to discuss tax matters with the department or to act on behalf of the entity that this is submitted for. Again, we're going to use this information to verify the authorized representative's identity when they talk to when we talk with them. So we're going to ask questions and things. We always ask multiple questions to determine if we are talking to an authorized individual. So just be aware of that. The reason that we do this, again, going back to what I said toward the beginning, confidentiality. The department, there's severe penalties for anyone that gives out information, confidential information regarding someone's tax return to an unauthorized individual. So that's why we use this documentation in order to help make a determination and make sure we are talking to authorized individuals. So make sure that, again, that we do have someone that the representative is the one signing the form. Again, common mistake that we receive. Something that is going to be new here, or that is new, I guess, on certain 2023 Iowa tax returns, we've got them listed here, the IA 1120, 1120S, 1120F, 1065, 1041. In this particular section, there is a place the individual that signs the return, they can declare themselves to be an authorized representative. This is not available for earlier year returns. This is, again, starting with 2023. And what this is going to do is any owner, officer, or someone such as that signs an Iowa tax return, they are going to be considered a certified representative. They do not have to submit that rep cert form, representative certification form, excuse me. They do not have to submit that form to us. By signing this, they are stating that, hey, I am authorized, and they will be added as a certified representative in our records so we can discuss things with them related to this tax return. Just a reminder for someone as well, if a person ceases to be an authorized representative, the taxpayer should notify the department. Perhaps someone, a former employee, maybe there was an officer that was authorized to act on behalf of a certain entity. Maybe they've left to pursue a job somewhere else. They've left the company. They no longer are authorized. The business should reach out to the department to make sure we get things updated, because we certainly don't want to be giving out information, again, to someone that is not authorized. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the Iowa Power of Attorney form. And many sections of the Iowa Power of Attorney are very similar to the representative certification form. So I just want to state that right away. Some things are very similar to it. In this situation, this is submitted by the taxpayer or an authorized representative. Okay. Remember the representative certification form, the individual representative themselves, they can declare, they can fill this out, they can submit it to us and say, hey, I am authorized. For a power of attorney, the individual has to be, they have to be appointed, or they have to be listed by the taxpayer or a certified representative. Again, this authorizes someone other than the taxpayer or a certified representative to act on behalf of this taxpayer. Examples of that could be like perhaps your accountant or an attorney. If you've got someone else, maybe it's your brother-in-law, I don't know, that knows taxes. If you've got another individual, this is the form that is used, the Iowa Power of Attorney form, or IA 2848. Again, this is available on our website, tax.iowa.gov, and you can find that form in there. The taxpayer can provide some broad authority or limit the representative or representation to specific periods or tax types. A couple things with this one. Again, the taxpayer information up at the top here in section 1, pretty straightforward. Name, address, that type of information. Nothing too tricky there. Section 2, the representative information. Again, this is just like the representative certification form. We need the representative's name. We have to have the individual's name on here. Cannot be an entity. We have got a different form for that. But the Iowa Power of Attorney has to have the representative's name and the representative's identification number. Again, if you do not wish to use your Social Security number or ITIN, that's fine. You can do the Iowa account number. Just simply check off, write none in here. The department will assign one to you. Again, just a reminder, one per person, one Iowa account number. If you're not sure what yours is and you've got one assigned, reach out to us and let us know. One thing on here too, if you leave this optional information of authority, if you leave this blank, okay, that's basically going to give authorization to all accounts that are on file with the department at that time. It's also going to be all periods, again, up to 3 years beyond the signature date. One thing that we run across, and I just ran across one here within the last week or so, someone submitted this some time ago. And at that time, they were not registered for Iowa sales tax. They had other tax types that they had on file with the department, but they have since, just recently, they got a sales tax permit. And the power of attorney, they're like, well, hey, I'm a power of attorney. What do you mean you won't tell me anything? Well, they submitted this power of attorney form before they were authorized, before they had a sales tax permit. And so to add sales tax to the authority of the power of attorney, they'd have to submit a new power of attorney form. So I hope that makes sense to you. By leaving this blank, this only gives you authorization for all the tax types at that time. If you apply for a permit later on down the road, we're going to need a separate power of attorney for that, or we're going to need an additional power of attorney to give authorization to that individual. If you do submit a new power of attorney to the department, again, make sure you include any existing power of attorney that you want to have on file. If you just put one on there, we're going to wipe out the old ones. So please make sure that you have all authorized individuals shown on this form. One thing to keep in mind on here, oops, I'm sorry. I clicked on the wrong thing here. Okay, there we go. One thing to keep in mind here, there is a place for 3 representatives on the IA 2848 form. If you want to add more than that, if you've got more simply than 3, we do have another form, an IA 2848A, and that one will allow you to add additional individuals. So please keep in mind that's what we do for additional individuals if you need for more than 3. Another thing that we get into here, in this signature area, the power of attorney must be signed by an authorized individual. So what does that mean? That means someone that's already on file with the department. Either they are on there as a representative certification form individual that's signed a representative certification, or they're already a power of attorney on file with the department. Again, has to be someone authorized. If you're not sure, and I understand that, maybe you don't know if the person's authorized or not, have them submit the representative certification form along with the power of attorney. That way, they're definitely covered. We will make sure that we get them entered into our system. Be sure that you send both of them in together. So the representative certification form and the power of attorney, those have to be submitted together so it does not cause any delays in processing. Again, this is something that we run into fairly frequently. Somebody does submit an Iowa power of attorney form to us, and it's signed by someone who is not authorized. So what this is going to do is it will be rejected at that time. Our registration section will send back a letter saying, hey, this person that signed it's not authorized. Please submit the following form. So hopefully maybe we can get ahead of it here. If someone's not sure, send the representative certification form. The other one that we had that I mentioned a little bit briefly earlier is the disclosure designee. And this one here is authorized by the taxpayer or a certified representative or a power of attorney. Okay. They can give broad access or restrict access to specific periods or tax types, kind of like a power of attorney form can. But again, this only authorizes them to discuss information with the department. They cannot act on behalf of the entity. They cannot request that we move payments around. They can't file an appeal or anything like that with the department. They have to make sure that you need to be aware that they can only discuss information with the department. They cannot act on behalf of the department. There are 2 different methods to authorize a designee. The first one is the IA 8821 form. This is the disclosure designation form, again, available on our website. Also on Iowa income tax returns, and we'll discuss that more here in just a minute. There is a place on the return where an individual can be appointed as a disclosure designee, so the department can discuss the tax return with them in the future. This is for 2023 and later. As with the other forms that we discussed, here is the IA 8821 disclosure designation form. Again, very similar to the representative certification, very similar to the power of attorney forms as far as filling them out. Again, taxpayers information is up here in the section number 1. That's always pretty straightforward. We usually don't have any big questions or issues on that. Our authorized designee, Again, we have to have the person's name. This cannot be the name of an entity, your accounting firm, maybe a law firm that represents you. Cannot be them. It has to be an individual. Okay. The designee's identification number. Again, they have to put their identification number in there. Do not put the taxpayer's permit number, their federal ID number, anything like that. This is the designation, the designee's identification number. Again, if you do not wish to have your social security number, that's fine. You do have the option for the Iowa account number, the IAN. Simply write in here, none, and one will be assigned. Again, you only get one though. We don't, if we've assigned one to you, we're not going to assign you another one. Reach out to us if you don't know what it is. We will help you out with that. Okay, this form can be submitted at any time. Again, the designee can receive information about the return from the department. The designee cannot change the return or otherwise act on behalf of the taxpayer. Again, we can only discuss information with them. So that's different than a power of attorney or a representative certification person. Those can act on behalf of the taxpayer, but the designee cannot. The disclosure designee cannot act on behalf of the taxpayer. Something that is new for 2023 income tax returns, including the Iowa 1040 and the other returns that are listed on the slide there. For this particular one, the taxpayer can provide the name and contact information for the person they want to receive information about the return. So potentially, if you file your Iowa 1040 with us, you can put down your tax preparer on there as a disclosure designee. You could put down there maybe your attorney. Maybe you've got another person that helps out with your taxes that you want to authorize to that we can disclose information to them. The authorization is limited to this specific return, just for this return only. It does not expire, but it can be revoked by the taxpayer. Okay, it can be revoked by the taxpayer. So this is something new. When the new Iowa 1040 comes out and the other tax returns as well, you will see this. This is something that is optional. It's not required to be filled out. It's an optional section that you can, if you wish, appoint a disclosure designee. So now that we've gone through how to get authorization to act on behalf of a taxpayer or to disclose information to a taxpayer, how do we go about revoking that? There are situations that come up where the authorization needs to be revoked. A taxpayer can do this. They can revoke a power of attorney or a disclosure designation at any time by submitting written revocation to the department. They have to include the name, identification number of both the taxpayer and the representative who is being revoked. But they can do that. They have to submit it in writing to us, and we will get them, we will revoke that individual. A power of attorney or disclosure designee may also withdraw from representing the taxpayer if they choose to as well. Again, they have to submit something to the department. They must include the taxpayer's name and information and what tax matters they're trying to withdraw from, but they can do that. So the taxpayer can do this, or the power of attorney or the disclosure designee. They can revoke the authorization. When it comes to certified representatives, their authority only ends when the representative no longer has actual authority to represent the taxpayer. So remember, an example of a certified representative is maybe an officer of a company. Well, when that officer leaves employment with that company and goes to work someplace else, that automatically does away with their authority. They no longer are authorized to act on behalf of this particular taxpayer. If the authority does end, again, the representative or the taxpayer should notify the department. We want to have this information so that we can prevent unauthorized access by the former authorized representative. That's kind of a mouthful. But if you get the gist of what I'm after here, Just because somebody used to work there, maybe they were an officer high up in your business entity, and then they left employment. You no longer want them to be able to discuss tax matters with the department. So if that happens, you should reach out to us and let us know so that we can get them removed from our system. GovConnect Iowa. GovConnect Iowa. Hopefully, most of you are familiar with our GovConnect Iowa portal. This is something that the department has had for the last couple of years. And just want you to be aware that we are doing another rollout. This is our third rollout. And individual income tax, inheritance tax, and fiduciary is going to be added to the GovConnect Iowa system in 2023. Now, if you've used the system before for business tax types, such as motor fuel, such as sales tax or use tax or withholding, you'll know that you've been able to file returns and also make payments for those tax types in GovConnect Iowa. Well, with these new tax types that are being added here in our rollout 3, you're not going to be able to file returns in there. However, you are going to be able to make payments. So like for your individual income tax return, you will still file your individual return just as you have in the past. Hopefully you'll do that electronically, but it will not be through GovConnect Iowa, okay? It will not be through GovConnect Iowa. If you have a liability, if you owe, then you can make a payment through GovConnect Iowa. Again, there'll be more information coming out on this, but this is going to start up here in November. So we're a little more than a month away from these tax types being handled in GovConnect Iowa. Just a reminder as well, there is another webinar coming up on November 1st, and it's going to give information about the GovConnect Iowa system for rollout 3, which happens on November the 13th. This is going to let you know some of the new things that we have, some of the new features that are available, information on where's my refund. You can report fraud, identity theft, those types of things. There's going to be information on there. If you've been to our webinars before for GovConnect Iowa, Jerica Pellington has done those webinars. She's going to be handling that one as well with some support staff in the background helping with questions. But that's something you might want to tune into if you're interested in that particular topic. Speaking of our webinars, this is a list of the webinars we had for 2023, and they are all listed there. We're through most of them, obviously, at this point in time, but you can register on our website. The information is up in the upper right-hand corner. It tells where to go on our website to register for one of these webinars. You can also view past webinars through Iowa SourceLink. As Kyle said earlier, this particular webinar is going to be it's going to be available either Friday or Monday. So if someone missed this potentially, or someone wants to go back and look at it, you can look at our archived webinars. There's various topics that are in there. You can go back and look at those things. Kind of a nice feature to have. So just be aware of that. A few other things. As always, we're always promoting our email list for keeping in contact with the department. You can subscribe to our email notifications. We've got various topics that you can subscribe to. As I've said many a times, if you've been to a webinar before with me, I said I do subscribe to all of these. And if I get something that maybe doesn't apply to me, I just delete the thing. But as I've said for years, I would rather have the information and not need it than need the information and not have it. So this is a good way of staying in contact with the department. We don't spam you to death or anything. We just send out information as appropriate, and we will get that out to you, let you know what's going on here at the Department of Revenue, especially at tax time. It's pretty handy to be able to have that information as issues come up during the tax filing season. It's a good way to get information out there to a lot of people in short order. So again, something to be aware of. All righty. I've covered the information that I wanted to make sure I shared with you today. Again, my intent was to hopefully shed some light on some things with this third-party documentation. This seems to be an area that we get questions on frequently, And I hope that I've shared with you why it is so important and the methods that we go through as far as getting that authorization so we can discuss things with you. We're not doing this to make your life miserable. You may think it is, but it is not. It is, in fact, our intentions are to protect confidential information and not give it out to unauthorized individuals. So that's why we go through this. I guess with that being said, some questions. Looks like Chet's been answering questions here frequently here. Oh.
Just a reminder, Terry, if you could, just whenever you're going to answer a question, just click that answer live button whenever you're answering it. And then I think there's like a maybe submit or answered or something like that, a button. Then it gets all cleared out and we can just keep track of everything, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, sure. I do see one here. Hey, shout out to my friend Ray Joyce from down in Ottumwa. Ray's been here before, been to our webinars before. Glad you could attend today, Ray. Good to hear from you. What else do we have here? This one I'm going to look at here. Okay. This one is from Mia. She's saying, none of these seem to apply to me. We work at a CPA firm, and we do not work with the actual taxpayer. We represent them. What form do we need to fill out? Basically, in this situation, you're going to need a power of attorney. Your client is going to have to sign a power of attorney appointing you as a representative so that we can discuss the tax return. You can act on behalf of the taxpayer. It's going to have to be a power of attorney. If you work for an accounting firm, that's the form that you would use so that you could perform those duties. Got a question here down at the bottom too that just came in. Does the Department of Revenue foresee that the timeline for processing rep cert forms and 2848s is faster than 4 to 8 weeks? Yes, that is correct. We are currently running approximately 2 weeks, 2 weeks for those. So yes, we expect that to be quicker than the 4 to 8 week time period that you were quoting.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. There's been a lot of discussion about the power of attorneys forms being rejected, even though they were sent with the representative certification form. In order to avoid that, the forms have to be filled out correctly. So submitting that rep cert with the POA does not guarantee it'll be approved because we have to check to make sure the form's completed correctly. Additionally, one thing to pay attention to is the individual signing the power of attorney form. They should be signing the rep cert form or completing the rep cert form as well. But the dates of each form have to be either the same or the rep cert has to be signed before the POA signature date. Because again, that rep cert form, the representative for the rep cert is gaining that authorization as of the signature date. So if the rep cert form is signed after the POA form, then at that time the POA form was submitted or was signed, they were not authorized. So again, if you're submitting those two forms together, make sure the rep cert form is dated the same date as the POA or beforehand. Otherwise, it will be rejected. And I do want to also mention that the Iowa account numbers that Terry referenced on these forms as a alternative ID to be used for the representatives who don't want to provide their social security number. Now, currently the forms do allow for you to write in none and request an Iowa account number via the form itself. In November, when we get our GovConnect Iowa updates go live, that will not be an option. You will have to obtain an Iowa account number before you submit that form if you want to use an Iowa account number in lieu of your social security number or ITIN. So That will be available on GovConnect Iowa. It currently is now. You can go and request an Iowa account number on the homepage. You do not need a web log on. Right now, it does take about a couple weeks for you to obtain the Iowa account number via mail. However, in November, when our updates go live, GovConnect Iowa will give you your Iowa account number as soon as you submit that request in. So you will get it in real time right away, allowing you to fill out that form and use your Iowa account number. As Terry alluded to, if you lose your Iowa account number because one's already been previously assigned, contact the department. We will need to verify your identity, and we should be able to give that to you over the phone, or we can send you a new letter with that Iowa account number information for you to use for future reference. Sorry, that was it, Terry.
No, that's quite all right. It looks like I've got another quick question here. This one says, small business, just the owner. Does the owner also have to sign the representative certification form to ask questions? Well, this one came from Tammy. What type of business is this? That's what's going to make a difference. If the it's going to depend on, again, the type of entity that this is. If it's a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC, we can talk to the owner. Once we establish, that they are in fact the owner, we can talk to them. But if it's another type of business entity, maybe it's a corporation or something, maybe it's a partnership, something along those lines, then they're going to need to have a representative certification on file with us before we can talk to them. So hopefully that clarifies things a little bit for you.
See, Todd Green asking this: should every person in the firm who has POA from clients have a GovConnect Iowa account? Really, that is up to your firm. It's who's actually going to be utilizing the GovConnect Iowa accounts and assisting your clients. Those folks should definitely have access to it. And one thing to note: if you want everyone in your firm to have access to your clients' accounts, you can actually create a web logon for them if you are already connected to the accounts, to avoid having to request an access code to connect to the account. So there is an option for that. Contact our taxpayer service team if you want assistance with that. But there is a quick way for those who already have access to taxpayer accounts in GovConnect Iowa to give instant access to their coworkers if they need that access in GovConnect Iowa.
Yeah. And Tammy, I see that you sent back the situation you were asking about just a few minutes ago. The business is an S Corp, okay? And so for that one, we're going to need a representative certification on file to talk to the owner. Again, an S Corp is a separate entity, can't speak for themselves, so there has to be someone assigned to that. And if the owner submits a representative certification form that's completed properly, we can, once it's added to our system, we can discuss with them. So they will need that representative certification in that situation. What else do we have?
Let's see. Don Matthews asked, our CPA firm was told earlier by the Iowa Department of Revenue that both an power of attorney and rep cert form are required to be on file with us. Is this correct regarding payroll sales tax? Essentially, no, that's not 100% accurate. It's whoever's contacting the department to discuss that account would need to be on file. So the thing with the rep cert and POA is, in order for a POA to be valid, that the signer has to be authorized. The only way really to get authorized is through the rep cert form, or through by registering a new business using the registration application, or as we discussed here in the presentation, 2023 tax returns will have that. We'll be adding the signer as a representative. So we really encourage businesses to submit rep certs for to add people that should be on the account or be authorized on the account, to avoid POAs being rejected or to avoid them calling in and being denied access to that information. So the way I tell people is, if you're working with the new client and you need to be added as a power of attorney to the account to assist them, If they're not sure if they're authorized or not, or there's any question as to who's authorized, just fill out the rep cert, have them fill out the rep cert form with the POA, send them together. Again, they have to be completed correctly and mind that signature date on both forms. Corey asked about, is there confirmation letters being uploaded to GovConnect Iowa to avoid calls to verify the rep cert or 2848 were approved? If you upload or submit your third-party forms through GovConnect Iowa, you will get a notification once they've been approved or rejected. So that is one major perk to using GovConnect Iowa to submit these forms. Now, you do have to be connected to those taxpayer accounts in GovConnect Iowa to upload those third-party forms. But that is, those get worked faster because it goes right into the queue to be worked. We don't have to worry about faxes and mail being entered into the system. But then you also get that notification once they've been approved or denied. Now, the department is working on sending out letters to the applicants, such as your POA applicants, disclosure designee applicants, to advise them that they've been approved or rejected. That is in the works. We are hoping to get that implemented by the end of the year, if not sooner. So again, if your power of attorney form is rejected, we currently notify the taxpayer, the business in question, that it was rejected, but we're also going to notify that power of attorney applicant that the form was rejected. It'll go to the address on file or on the address for the POA that was listed. So those are things we are working on to improve the communication with power of attorney applicants so they know where they're at. And again, we are also working on reducing those turnaround times for processing these forms. I know a lot of people reference the IRS and other states who can approve them right on the phone. We don't have that option right now, but we're hoping to get the turnaround time to less than a week. So you get answers right away, and we'll continue to improve our processing times and communication with everybody.
I see there's a question on here. Someone was asking about if you would know the reason that one of your submissions was rejected, one of your third party. The answer to that is yes. If the department, the registration section will send out a letter stating why it was rejected and what information we need. Again, these can be all over the place as far as why, but just make sure, I guess the best information I can provide to you is read the form carefully. Make sure you're submitting all the required information on there. Again, a big one is representatives not putting their identification number on a form, whether it be power of attorney or representative certification form. They have to put their representative's identification number on there. If they don't do that, it's going to be rejected. The other thing is on a representative certification form in section 3, where you're checking off the box for your authority, make sure that you are submitting any supporting documentation that's needed. In the presentation here a little earlier, I gave the example of someone that's a general or durable power of attorney. If that's the case, if that is your authority when you're submitting the representative certification form, you have to send to us also a copy of that general or durable power of attorney. So those are some common reasons why something might be rejected. Another one as well is an authorized individual did not sign the power of attorney form. And that's where we need, if someone's not sure if they're authorized and they're signing that form, then we're going to need a representative certification on file if they don't already have one. But if you're getting a reject letter, that means that that person probably was not authorized in our system. So that is why a representative certification form would be needed for the individual that signed the power of attorney. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit for you.
Apparently I was muted. I started talking. No, these are awesome questions. Plenty have come through. I know Chet's been answering them in the background and everything, and Terry live and Chet live and everything. So I'm gonna just kind of wrap everything up so we can kind of stay on schedule. It's already 1 o'clock here, been an hour. So yeah, I'll just do my little ending spiel and everybody can get on with their day. So thank you again to Terry and Chet for sharing the information regarding third-party access and authorization today. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded and will be available to watch on our website or by searching for Iowa SourceLink on YouTube, either this Friday or upcoming Monday. The link will also be emailed out to you in a couple of days as well. If your questions were not answered here today, make sure you download the PDF version of the slides. It's been in the chat a couple of times, as your answer may be found there, or you can rewatch the webinar for clarification. Your questions that were not answered today will be emailed to both Terry and Chet alongside your contact information, so they can follow up with you if they're able to do so. Also, as a reminder, Iowa SourceLink does not provide any sort of continuing education certification or credits for your attendance here today. We do, however, send out an email to all those who participated within a few days after the webinar concludes that you can use as proof of attendance. That's proof of attendance, not a certificate. Just keep that in mind. Sorry. The next Iowa Department of Revenue webinar will be held on November 1st from noon to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, CST, if you're cool like me. The webinar will provide an overview of Iowa Department of Revenue and other state agency updates to the GovConnect Iowa platform in order to make it more user-friendly for registering or renewing business licenses and permits, or at least some of them, filing tax returns and reports, making payments, and more. This third rollout of a multi-year effort will simplify these processes for taxpayers and will launch on November 13th. So this webinar is on the 1st. It's coming up relatively soon, so you don't want to miss that. So if either one of you or somebody you know want to sign on to that, make sure you go to our website and go to our tax webinar page and get signed up. So until next time, take care, everyone, and thanks again to Terry and Chet, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for attending.